Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey guys, I'm Nariman Hamden, and this is Driven, Unscripted Success podcast. We have another awesome guest on today. We have Dr. Paulie Gavoni. Did I say that right?
You got it right.
Gavoni, awesome. So really excited about having him on the show today. Dr. Paulie is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author. He's an international and keynote speaker. He is the founder of Heart and Science International, co-founder of the Behavioral Toolbox. He is the director at PCMA and a behavioral analyst.
You got it.
How's it going?
It's good. Just up, grinding this morning. I'm creating a lot of content. I got a couple more books coming out over the next 2 months. So was
That's
excited
exciting.
putting together some marketing material for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So why don't we kick things off with, why don't you give us some background about what you do and how you got to where you are?
Well, I'll start with my values. I truly value helping people. I actually started off in social work, and you don't go into social work because you want to make money. You do it because you have the value of making a difference in the lives of others. I ended up stumbling across applied behavior analysis, which is the science of human behavior, in 2004. And when I learned about it, I went back to school for it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally the science of helping, because all results, whether it's the results you want to produce or results in an organization, all results require behavior. And when you're able to unlock behavior, you can unleash potential. A lot of people don't understand why behavior actually occurs. Yeah. So I ended up taking the behaviorist approach to helping turn around failing schools, eventually failing organizations, and even failing fighters. I'm a former fighter, former Gold Gloves heavyweight champion of Florida. And I became a striking coach, and I have local, state, national, and even world champions using this same science to help accelerate performance more safely, to help them achieve, amazing results at these levels. So it's an incredible science, and many people don't even know it exists.
Sure. That's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to digging into it. I'm sorry. So when you think back, are there any moments that you'd say really changed the game for your career?
Oh, yeah. The big moment, most of my successes have come out of adversity. Everybody has adversity, but
Sure.
It's what you do with that adversity that makes a difference. I mean, we have to adapt in life. If we cannot, the environment changes all the time. It's how species have survived, right? Through adaptation. It's not the strong that survive, it's those who adapt. So when something hit hard, I was forced to adapt. And it came a point in my career where I was working in some organizations, and I was experienced like a ton of bad leadership. I don't even like to call them leaders. I want to call them people with positional authority, because I have a very specific, set of skills that I believe are associated with leadership. It's why I've written so many books aimed at leadership. But I came home complaining to my wife, who's always been very supportive. She's in a leadership position herself. And just complaining. She looked at me one day and she said, like, listen, man, stop bitching. And she literally said that. And I kind of whined a little bit and complained some more and thought about it for a few days. And I thought, she's right. I can either accept it, try to change the environment, all right, which is going to require changing myself. And that sent me back to school. I ended up going back to school to get two degrees in leadership, educational leadership and organizational leadership. And then I ended up getting a doctoral level certification in applied behavior analysis. And so that was a big changer for me to kind of look at leadership. There's a lot of amazing leadership theories out there, like servant leadership. I love that theory. Transformational leadership, love that. Authentic leadership. But these are all theories. And they're like kind of different paths towards a common goal. But the science of human behavior is like the vehicle for driving those paths. Because again, everything requires behavior. And when you're able to understand how to get behavior the right way out of people, right, you'll be able to get the right results.
Yeah, absolutely. And with you saying, those leaders that really weren't leaders, they were more like dictators, and it makes it can affect every single employee there and changes their mindset because you've got someone that you're afraid to approach, first of all. And then second of all, you don't want to upset them. And then it becomes kind of like discouraging with
Oh
any
yeah.
ideas. You can't go to them and share an idea because they're just going to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not going to say these are bad people. Most of the time they're not.
Right.
And I do call the ones that seem like to be narcissists, I call them dictators, right? Is like
Yep,
we said, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
And so what the reason a lot of them do it because it works. And the science of human behavior tells us that, right? But the problem is when you use fear of consequences or coercion to get behavior, people will do just enough to get by. And only when you're looking, case in point, when's the one time you definitely do the speed limit, right? And it comes with in an organization, it comes with all sorts of fear responses, and people tend to get
Sure.
tunnel vision. And toxic environments do not positively impact the bottom line. It has you have turnover and you have people getting sick, right? So healthcare goes up. You have absenteeism, and so there's a bunch of negative outcomes that occur
Right.
from it. But these people do it because they see it work immediately. But it's like winning the round but losing the fight, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do you deal with taking risks? And is there a time when rolling the dice really worked out for you?
Some people are big risk takers. You have to take risks, and I do take risks, but it's pretty defined ahead of time. I don't just jump into somewhere. I take calculated risks. I probably one of the riskiest things I ever did was boxing. This is not organizationally right, but I was bullied a little bit when I was younger. I just wrote the book I got coming out soon. It's called Finding Your Authentic Self. And I talked about how that led me into, where I'm at today. But I had to step into the boxing ring. I was thrown in there with actually a professional fighter and he beat the crap out of me, broke my nose.
Oh,
I literally
gosh.
just got it fixed about 5 years ago now because I couldn't enunciate certain words. It was so bad.
Huh.
And I've thought about that organizationally, how many people have been dropped into an organization unprepared to meet the demands and took a proverbial beating like I did, not because they couldn't be successful, but because they weren't prepared for that success. And it happens in gyms all the time where people think they can't be a champion, so they just leave and never come back. So it happens a lot. So that was probably the biggest risk I did because you're literally putting your life on the line to do it. But fiscally, I don't take a lot of risk. I do put this. I'm not pushing a book here, but I'm putting this book called Finding Your Authentic Self, and I'm extremely vulnerable in it. I open my world to people and I let them see like that to change your life, to become authentic. A lot of people are living a life, but they're not living their life, right? They're doing things because they want to avoid the risk, right? And they
Sure.
want to kind of control things around them. And they do things because it provides some sort of short-term relief for them. But it's in disservice to what they truly value in the long term. And so it really requires awareness, and awareness requires radical vulnerability. You have to be able to look at yourself. And the only way to really look at yourself, because we all suffer from confirmation bias, right? We tend to look for things that support our existing beliefs. You have to look at patterns that are showing up for you. You look at patterns of your thoughts, right? You look at patterns of your behaviors, but you also look at patterns of how people and things are responding to you, right? What's going
Sure.
on? And when you look at those patterns, you have to understand that you are the common denominator in those environments, right? And those situations. And so we can't force other people to do things. What we can do is be a part of the environment that influences their behavior, which means we have to change our behavior. What are we going to do more or less or differently if we're not producing the results that we want right now, if we're not living the life we want? And I think that right now I travel all over and I am living so much in my values. And one of the things that I learned, which was incredibly important, when I go up on stage, because I present a lot, right? It's where I feel the best. And I used to have a huge fear of public speaking, right? But I feel like I am living my values. This is me. I am so organic and I'm so giving you my truth and people love it, right? And then when I get off the stage, I'm like, well, they don't know the real me because the real me is insecure, it's anxious, blah, 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 right? But the fact is that people were seeing the real me. I wasn't seeing the real me. And I had to start thinking about aligning this behavior with what I do every day, because in the ring and up on that stage, I'm a gangster, man. Like I go for it and I don't I have extreme conviction, but I was not having that same conviction in my personal life, right? I was not
Sure.
living my same values because of fear of people like leaving or doing something, right? So I started to change really who I was. So I don't know if that answered your question. It kind of steered off on a tangent, but I thought it was important. I think it was about risk, right? Yeah, having the risk
Yes.
and going back.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Risking
felt
it,
risk
working
going
out.
up in there and writing the book. That's what it was, and putting myself out there. So that's a pretty risky thing for me, but I think it's going to help a lot of people. It's in service of my core values.
Sure. And then it helps them, it becomes relatable, when you're truly sharing your experience, your struggles, your vulnerability. It resonates with a lot of people out there, and that's what a lot of people are looking for. That's what makes a good story is that relatability, rather than just uh, mimicking somebody else's life or watching something and then repeating what that somebody else said rather than you being authentic and genuine,
I,
you
I
know?
I couldn't say it any better. And it's one of the feedback that I got early on where, to your point, when I first started public speaking, and because I had a lot of fear of it, I was trying to mimic other people and I wasn't
Sure.
being me, right? And when I started to move into my own authenticity and just being like, I'm just going to speak my truth, things
Right.
changed a lot. And so this is why I think it's so important for people to live their values all day long, every day, right? But they have to know who they are. A lot of people think, well, that's just me. Well, is it just you, or have you learned to do that because it's
Right.
producing some sort of immediate consequence for you that you like, and it keeps you safe, right? It protects you or something like that. People have these hard shells around you, but vulnerability is a key. And also in leadership, when you have a vulnerable leader, somebody who's willing to say like, hey, I kind of made a mistake or share with you, to me, man, that's a really great leader. I'm going to trust that
Yeah.
person more.
Right. And it means he or she, that person's willing to grow and learn, they're open,
Yeah.
which attracts more opportunities, more better people surrounding you. It just makes everything much better. I love it.
It does.
I love it. Um, so what's a skill or habit you think doesn't get enough credit for contributing to your success?
Oh, you know what? Here's the habit that I have. I believe that if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? Everything is behavior. What has contributed to my success is simply consistency, right? It's not the person
Yeah.
that's the most intelligent, the person that's the most talented, right? I think it's the person that stays the course. And coming back to my thought about values is that here's how you'll stay the course is if you're behaving in alignment with your values. Because if you know what you value, right, and you have value driven goals, now you just need to have some sort of metric, some sort of way that know that you're moving down that line, because there's a lot of things that try to pull us off course from our values, right? But I
Sure.
value this stuff so much that even with life stuff coming to hit me, I still keep going, right? I'm like a juggernaut because it produces, just the act of doing it is so meaningful to me to help people. And when I see that, people come back and they say, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you made a difference. I went home and I tried this thing in my office or my organization or at home. And gosh, I wish I would have known this stuff before. That's like the big thing for me. When somebody says that, it feels so good to know people are adopting these principles that I'm talking
Yes.
about. So that keeps me going. It gives me meaning in life. And I feel that when we have meaning, we'll keep moving despite what life throws at us. If you don't, it's easy for you to come off, straight off course. So we have to find our values to have a vision that's driven by those values.
Sure. 100%. So I'm sure leading a team has its challenges. What's your leadership style? And can you give us an example of how it helped you through a tough spot?
Well, so first of all, we have to really define leadership. And a lot of people define leadership by results. And what I would argue is that there's a lot of different ways to get results, and a lot of them are not aligned with what I would call leadership. What you and I would both agree is like dictatorship, right?
Right.
Unethical ways to get it. You can cheat. There's all sorts of ways, push people to do things. And I don't think that's leadership at all, right? The measure of
Right.
a leader can be found in the behavior of the followers. If you get the right behavior going the right way, I think I said this earlier, then you're going to
Mm-hmm.
produce the right and sustainable results. And I believe that a leader, I'm actually doing a research paper on it, and I've written about this in my book, Positional Authority Ain't Leadership. A leader has to wear 4 hats, whether it's self-leadership, team leadership, organizational leadership, governmental leadership, right? And I believe these 4 hats sum it up. The first hat is the leading hat. And the leading hat is about In the science we call it motivating operations. It's inspiring people. If people see the why behind it, how this making a change or doing something is going to be of value to them, you're already behind the eight ball. They're going to do just enough to get by again, only when you're looking, right? So sometimes we need to inspire people, morale's down. We need to inspire them, lift them up, right? Involve them, give them voice and choice. Huge. But inspiring people isn't enough, right? We also have to make sure they have the knowledge and skills to be successful. So now we got to put on the training hat. And the training hat is about that skill acquisition, right? Giving them the skills to do it. But here's what we know very clearly through the science of human behavior and lots of other research, that training and even leading, right, is what we call antecedent strategy in the performance world. It's intended to get behavior moving, but it won't keep it moving, right? It's the consequences of behavior that keep behavior moving. There's 100 years of science to support that, right? So while training is about skill acquisition, coaching supports the generalization of learned skills into the natural environment. Training is about telling or instructing. Coaching is about asking, helping people to be better observers of their behavior and the impact of their behavior on important results in the environment, right? If we can help people behave well enough, long enough that they produce good results for them, right? And for whatever response they have, they're going to keep doing it, right? And they know they can do it. So it's going to give them self-efficacy, right? Their belief in their ability to do it, and response efficacy, knowing that if they do it, it will produce those outcomes. The final hat is the managing hat. Right. And the managing hat is about maintenance of those behaviors. And that's where you have to have a good system in place, right? Good system managing is just push the button. Like when you drive every day, there's a good system in place, and good systems are deliberately designed to deliver positive reinforcement for value added behavior. When you drive, there's lots of positive reinforcement that's coming into you, not people coming out to tell you're doing a good job. Every inch you move, every mile you move, your behavior of driving is being reinforced because it's moving you towards a desired destination, right? So all that information, all the data, the sights, the sounds, everything, that's data that gives you feedback and measurement that you're moving in that direction. And because there's so much positive reinforcement that's engaged with driving, you accept the consequences, right? The punishing contingencies that are in place. You could run off the road and get a flat tire. You could get pulled over. You could get a ticket. You could have to go back to driving schools. You could, be fined. You could lose your license. You could even go to jail. And these are all acceptable contingencies, right? Consequences, these negative punishing contingencies for that behavior. So when you put on the managing hat, if you have a good system in place, everybody knows it's very transparent. Here's what happens when you do the right thing. Here's what happens when you do the wrong thing. But we got to make sure that we're recognizing appropriate behavior, a minimum of 4 times as much as we're correcting behavior. And we correct it in a way that's helpful, not hurtful. And when you already have, if you establish yourself with a leading hat as somebody who's trusted, if you've been vulnerable, right? If you've established yourself as a positive reinforcer, when you correct, people are going to accept it as being helpful. I have people come from all over the world for me to correct their behavior, right? And they love it because I know that I'm here to help them because they want to be better. Right? They know that if they change this behavior, it's going to help them move towards their value-driven goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and you had mentioned, you have to basically compliment somebody or encourage them and recognize what they've done several times a day in order to keep them moving, and when you are kind to someone, when you recognize when they do a great deed or whatever it is, and just, hey, you know what? Nice job on that. That was pretty awesome. Or, if there's something they could do a little better with it, it's like, hey, great job on that presentation, but maybe think about this section here, maybe turn it into this, or constructive criticism to keep you keep them going. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, I want to say something about that though. People need constructive criticism, right? All learning requires feedback, good feedback, right? Corrective feedback. This is how we learn. I would do my best to separate positive feedback from corrective if you can, because if somebody's ever told you did a great job, but they tell you, hey, you did a great job with this, that, and the other, but you wait for it, right? However, sometimes there's not time to separate it, so you can do it this way. Hey, you did a great job with A, B, and C. And because you did that, here's the outcome you produce. That's performance feedback, telling them about the behavior and the results. Sure. The next piece is that say, now to make it better, even better next time, you might want to try this, right? So now you're building that instead of putting the great butt, because the big butt, and we all do it in America. We love big butts. It's like the great eraser to get rid of all that stuff,
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right. The moment that butt comes in, then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's a little backhanded, so it does make sense. So I'd like to know this. What's a day in your life look like, and how do you juggle work and everything else?
Oh, people ask me that question all the time. At this point in my life, I have 15 books that I publish. I'm traveling all the time. Doing talks. I have training based off my talks. I have different jobs. I work for Professional Crisis Management Association, which is the greatest crisis management system in the world. I don't do anything that's not aligned with my values. I believe they're grounded in the science of human behavior. My behavioral toolbox, it was an online course that's grounded in the science of human behavior. My consulting business, Heart and Science International, is grounded in it, which means that everything I'm doing is in service of my values of helping people. Right now, I am busy all day long, but I love doing so. It doesn't feel like work. You've heard, if you do what you love, you never work again. I don't feel like I work. Right. I do get tired like anybody else, but my day starts off like this. I work remotely. I get up, and one of my favorite part of the day is I get up at 5:00. I go get a coffee. Right now I get omelet bites from Dunkin' Donuts, and I drive. I literally work from home. I'm gone for an hour. I drive, I go up over the bridge, and I drive down by the ocean, and I just get my head ready, right, for the day. I listen to music. I listen to self-help videos and stuff like that, right? As I get ready for myself, whatever I'm focusing on. I might talk to ChatGPT because I'm developing some stuff and I'm bouncing some questions, And then as I'm coming home, I'm anxious to get home. Why? Because I can't wait to get in and develop content, because I develop a lot of content for all the different things, right? Whether it's my training, whether it's for PCMA as an ambassador, whether it's for my own work, So once I do that, then I come and I start developing, whether it's writing an article, it's doing a podcast, right? I have 2 of my own podcasts, focusing on doing a book, getting ready to, travel somewhere to do a talk or doing a training. Everything's in service of that. But that's my daily thing. Is my daily grind is creating content and putting stuff out there. Like, I love doing this. This is fun. Some people would consider it work, but we're talking about something I love, and I love sharing it with you and, hopefully your listeners.
That's awesome. Yeah. You've got a great mind. So and you're also, a boxer, you're helping people. So it's a pleasure. That's for sure. Definitely a pleasure having you on. Okay. So has there been a book, a podcast, or a person that's really changed your outlook or approach?
Well, funny, I have my stack of stuff right here, and I'm not going to be self-promotional. I'm going to go to the really one that did it.
Sure.
I'll hold it up here. It's called Bring Out the Best in People by Dr. Aubrey Daniels. Okay. And it was Aubrey wrote it as a practical application of the science of human behavior in business. I learned from Aubrey to do that, and that's what I've taken, right, what he's done, and now I put it out everywhere through my own voice, right, in my own situation in education and businesses and leadership. I've applied it, so I've done my own things with it. But when I read that book, what it did for me as somebody who was certified as a behavior analyst was like, we're trained on how to help people with special needs, right? That's where the science is predominantly used, behavior analysis, because there's insurance providers, right? And so there's a place for jobs with that. But nobody was using it in organizations, barely using it in organizations, especially in education. And I don't know what's more important than education. Teachers are like one of our nation. And so I was in schools as a behavior analyst, trying to help individual students, but the whole schools were falling apart around me. And I was asked to support school turnaround one year for a school that was really challenging. They have something called school-wide positive behavior support that's meant to help students, positively, follow expectations, etc. And the school was a mess. 792 suspensions, fights all the time. The school went from an A to an F in 1 year. And when the deputy superintendent asked me if I could support school turnaround, I thought to myself, no, what am I going to do with this? But while I doubted myself, I've never doubted the science of human behavior. So I went to a friend and I said, hey, I kind of think we need positive behavior support for teachers, because to bring out the best in the students, don't we need to bring out the best in teachers? And that's where they handed me this book, Bringing Out the Best in People. And all it did was unlock my mind to say, oh, this is what the science of human behavior looks like when you start to zoom out a bit, right? And focus on, right? So yeah, that was a life-changing book for me.
Sure. So how do you tackle learning new things, especially stuff that's way outside of your comfort zone?
Well, I'll be honest. These days, I have a bucket of knowledge that I take the knowledge I have and I present it to people so they can understand it, because there's already 100 years of research to support that. The new things I end up having to learn are like technology, right? And it can be difficult, right? People say, people don't like change. Well, what they really happens is they're not getting in touch with positive reinforcement. Their effort is having to increase, right, in order to produce some sort of result, and they want to fall back on old habits. The change that I've had challenges with is technology. So what I do is break things down into smaller, digestible chunks. When people throw a lot of stuff at you, you'll get confused and you'll get overwhelmed, right? And it
Yes.
seems like you're going slow, but you're actually going slow to go fast. It accelerates your learning, and the science of human behavior has taught us that very clearly. When I train my fighters, I don't focus on a bunch of things. We focus on 1 or 2 or 3 behaviors at a time, and then we begin to chain those behaviors together, and people learn so fast. We have the technology of behavior, right? Behavior analysis has been proven in schools to accelerate learning by 4 to 6 times.
That's
Hear that?
impressive.
4 to 6 times. So that means if kids are going to school, they'll learn what they're learning in 6 years in a year. It's amazing. But people just have not caught on to the science because there's like philosophical difference the way that you approach things, right? And they think that it's about carrots and sticks, and they're just so wrong. But we as a field have done a really bad job of marketing it to help people see that it can be used to be very compassionate, right? Because we have a bunch of scientific words like predict and control, and manipulate. It's not about people, it's about the environment. And those are words and terms that are used in the science, but I never talk that way to anybody. In my books, you don't hear any of those terms because I don't want to turn people off.
Right. And you don't want to plant that seed in their head to create that doubt and that manipulation or any of those thoughts,
Yep.
I'm surprised that they're not implementing these methods in more schools,
Yep.
I mean,
That's my mission, though. That's
Yeah.
why I do what I do, to shine a light on it. That's why I have so much stuff. It's turning people on to what there is a
Sure.
science behind. Even terms like grit and pop psychology stuff like emotional intelligence. I love that stuff, right? Emotional intelligence is wonderful. I wrote a book called Adaptive Intelligence because emotional intelligence is great. It's an evolution of IQ, right? Intelligence, but it's not enough just to be emotionally intelligent, meaning like you're self-aware, right? And you're managing your behavior. You're aware of the emotions of others, right? And you're treating them with respect and kindness and all that stuff. That's wonderful. But if you're a leader and that employee who's been struggling and you've been emotionally intelligent with them is still not performing, all you're doing now is manage your emotions, right? What you need to understand is, how do we get the best out of this person? What's the root cause of their performance issues? And what can I do more or less or differently to impact that? And so that's why I believe the next realm, though I wrote the book Adaptive Intelligence, that's the evolution of emotional intelligence, because you can put the scientific lens on anything. I would argue that's the greatest science in the world. Case in point, what science can improve other sciences by improving the respective performance of the scientist?
Sure. Well, it sounds like things are going really well for you in your business. Sorry, gosh. As you're looking towards the future, I'm wondering if or how you create passive income, or if you have invested in the past.
My passive income's coming through my books, right? I love that. I have 15 books out, and that's nice. I have online courses, so I'm very willing to put in sweat equity up front to get passive income. It's very nice to just look in the bank account and there's money there,
Right.
Yeah. We have a software coming out that's the first ever that helped me to turn around failing schools, because it's an alternative to suspension software. It has virtual timers on the wall, and kids can earn their way out. And instead of sending kids home, there are tasks, and there are values-based tasks. It's called the Compass Room, right? So kids can learn about their own behavior, why they did, how they were not engaging in behavior in line with their values, what they might be able to do next time, right? So nobody's ever done that. So this is how, I do it. But for me, it requires a lot of sweat equity up front. I know a lot of people like to invest money and do it. I'm not that guy. Like, I don't throw money around like that just because I don't know how to do it. That's not my wheelhouse. I invest in sweat equity, and it's produced lots of good things for me.
That's fantastic. Well, as we're wrapping up the interview, you just touched, I was going to ask you what plans or initiatives you have for the next 6 to 12 months. And you had just mentioned your compass.
Yeah.
What do you think that'll be out this year or
we're actually the software developer just got done with the first version of it. My partners and I are meeting Monday to review it, because there's a lot of things, you got to dot the I's and cross the T's and do all that.
Sure.
But we hope to beta test it this fall. And I don't know what school would not want it, because they don't know what to do, and there's nothing like it that's ever existed. And I've already used it. That school, where they had 792 suspensions in that school when they asked me to come out there, and they were getting 50 calls a day to remove the kids from the classroom. This was an elementary school with 600 kids, 792, and that's not even days of suspension. That's events. Wow. The next year we came in, we got 67 suspensions, and we went down to 3 calls a week to remove students from the classroom. Now, I'm not saying it was only based on the original compass room, right? What it was originally called the reflection room. But it was a combination of putting preventive stuff in, right? But also having the stopgap, because if kids' behavior didn't just change, they were still being sent out of the room. So where do you send them? If you send them to the front office, they're hanging out with 5 or 10 of their best friends, right? That's like going from the ditch to Disney World. You're actually reinforcing the very behavior that you want to get rid of. So you have to put them in a structured setting, right? Somewhere where, it's kind of like the ditch to the desert, somewhere I kind of want to be a little bit less. And so that way you can set up contingencies for them to work their way out back in the classroom while you're helping the teacher build the classroom that they don't want to leave.
Sure. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all your insights and the projects that you're doing with education and helping people and the children of high schools and elementaries. If someone wants to connect with you, how does one get a hold of you?
I'm very available on LinkedIn. They can go to heartscienceinternational.org. But LinkedIn, if you just type in Paul Gavoni, I'm the only one there, I think. GAV as in Victor, ONI, and just send me a message, and I'm very likely to respond.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. And thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.